was the most reviled political commercial in American history, maybe in the English language. And 45 years later, as they search for a new idea, the Republicans have just stolen that one. In our third story in the countdown, the mushroom cloud imagery of the infamous Daisy ad might better describe GOP infighting than it serves GOP image making. In the Rose Garden this morning, some Republican lawmakers supporting the president's efforts to protect the nation, at least as long as the photo op lasted. The commander-in-chief signing legislation to cut wasteful defense spending, promising to do whatever it takes to defend the American people. Meanwhile, the geniuses who run the Republican Party, or at least pretend to, at the RNC, deciding it would be a good idea to splice footage of the little girl in the 1964 Lyndon Johnson campaign ad with footage misrepresenting the president's position on closing the detention center at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
To close it, not.
Guantanamo, that's easy. Close down Guantanamo.
To close it, not.
I don't believe that should come to the United States.
We will never allow terrorists to be released into the United States.
To close it, not.
We've made some hasty decisions that are now going to take some time to unwind. And closing Guantanamo Bay obviously is one of those decisions.
These are the stakes.
Guantanamo, that's easy. Close down Guantanamo.
White House Press Secretary Gibbs, as you may have guessed, had been talking about the Bush administration's hasty decision to open Gitmo, not about his boss, President Obama, and his decisions. Not that you would know that from that ad. Is that what RNC Chairman Michael Steele meant when he claimed earlier this week, quote, "We're going to take this president on with class. We're going to take this president on with dignity." Republicans who have actually won elections now chafing at the dignity of the former vice president's less-than-true confessions tour in the wake of yesterday's Tell It Like It Wasn't installment before an audience of neocons. Senator John McCain concluding of Mr. Cheney's speech, quote, "I don't have the time or energy to discuss that, or the inclination." Time now to call on the Washington correspondent of the New Yorker magazine, Ryan Lizza. Ryan, good evening.
Hey, Keith, how you doing?
Dick Cheney at the forefront and McCain and others running for cover. We're fighting Obama with class. They tried out the Daisy ad. Externally, this looks like chaos. Is this, in fact, various would-be leaders of the Republican Party fighting to gain control of it?
Well, this is what happens when a party is out of power, when you don't have the White House, when you don't have any, when you don't control the House or the Senate, and it's just, you know, 1,000 flowers are blooming. There's no, the leadership of the Republican Party will emerge around the next presidential election. That's the next time they'll actually have a real leader. Until then, they're stuck with Dick Cheney, who's the sort of loudest, and he's taking on the administration the most directly, and that's their guy for the moment.
And by the way, not to make an editorial comment here, but I don't know that those are necessarily flowers. But anyway, in addition to Senator McCain declaring something else, similarly in structure, but nothing else. McCain declared he didn't have the time or the energy or the inclination to discuss what Mr. Cheney said yesterday. Senator Murkowski, the Republican of Alaska, who had Cheney campaign for her in 2004, she's told Politico that she hasn't thought that far about whether she wants his help next year in her Senate race again. Is this Republican lawmakers' equivalent of telling the former vice president to, you know, get lost, to put it politely?
Yeah, look, and I think these guys are a little ambivalent about this. On the one hand, you know, they read the same polls everyone else does. They know that Dick Cheney is personally their own toxic asset. On the other hand, they've adopted his strategy on as far as how to confront the administration on national security. And you see guys like Boehner and other Republican leaders on the Hill saying saying the same things that Cheney are saying. So they've adopted the Cheney message, although I doubt although they don't want Cheney the messenger out there campaigning for them. So that's the sort of box they're in right now.
Here's another one. Michael Steele said two things this week. One, that the GOP would treat President Obama with class and dignity, and two, that the party would take this aggressive new approach in confronting him. The new Daisy ad remix is number 2 at the expense of number 1, or is it? I mean, it doesn't seem to fulfill both of those requirements.
No, it doesn't. I mean, this ad, to me, it strikes me as something that an intern, you know, made up at a morning meeting. And, you know, normally at the RNC there'd be some adults in the room to say, yeah, let's move on to the next idea here. But things are a little bit chaotic at the RNC under Steele, and you don't necessarily have that adult supervision to filter out things like this.
The RNC did not use the mushroom cloud portion of the original Johnson ad from '64. In a weird way, it's a pulled punch, but is it also sort of admitting that the whole premise of the thing is, and using it again, is pretty tasteless?
Yeah, it's like they want to have a little bit of plausible deniability here. They want to say, well, we didn't show the mushroom cloud going off, when they know, of course, what it suggests, and obviously when people talk about it, they'll reference that. So I think that's right. I think they thought maybe it would be going one step too far with the mushroom cloud, but the effect would be out there because everyone would discuss it anyway.
Ryan Lizza of The New Yorker, great thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Keith. You too.